Hi, I'm kchoi. Welcome back to my channel. I am very excited about today's video. It is a career interview and it's been a while since I've done one of these, but I always love making these videos because they're packed with so much information that I just can't wait to share with you all. I spoke with Wafa who is a former investment banker. She worked in banking for a couple of years and then made the unexpected switch into career and wellness coaching. And in this video, she'll not only tell that story, but she'll also share a lot of practical tips for you to be your best self both at work and outside of work. And when I say practical, I mean these are so easy to apply. You can literally start doing them today. So I can't wait to share all of that. I'll have timestamps linked throughout the video so you can jump around and take advantage of all the amazing information that she shared with us. Quickly, before we jump into the interview, I want to take a moment to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace, of course, is an all-in-one website building platform to build a website, and whether you've got a blog, an online store, a portfolio, or even a service like Wafa's coaching business, you can create a website on Squarespace. In my opinion, it's the easiest and best way to build a website. They've got tons of customizable templates and all of them look so beautiful. Plus, they've got marketing and analytics tools so you can track your performance and just optimize your digital presence. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I love Squarespace. So if you also want to build a website using Squarespace, then go to squarespace.com/kchoi to get a free trial. Then when you're ready, use my code kchoi to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. All of that info will be in the description box, so go check it out. And with that, let's get into the video. So excited to have you on the channel today. Let's just start out by having you introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Christina, for having me on your channel. I'm Wafa. I'm an ex-investment banker turned certified wellness and career coach, and I've been coaching millennials and executives in finance and helping them revive their career and their daily routine through personal transformation so that they don't have to fall sick or quit. I studied in Paris in France, and I always thought that I wanted to learn the companies from the inside. And so when it was time to choose my master's, I told myself, listen, finance is perfect way to do it because you'll understand how they work from the inside through numbers. And so I went on and pursued master's in finance. And when I graduated, I moved to New York and I started working in corporate America as an investment banker for a little under 2 years.
What was it that made you want to switch industries and move away from finance? Just tell me more about that.
So you see, when I got my job in finance, it was my dream job. I was living the banker life in all of its glory, the free food laying around the office, the fine cheeses and cakes, and the cabs after work. At some point I felt like Carrie Bradshaw, except minus the shoes, expensive shoes, no Manolo Blahniks. I loved it. I loved it because I was working around with smart people, super sharp minds. The learning curve was very steep. You know, I got rushes of adrenaline being in the middle of live transactions. So that was great until I found myself crying uncontrollably at 4 a.m. behind my cubicle. And that's when I thought, wait a minute, something's off. This is not supposed to happen. I got into a period of denial where I thought, no, this is part of the job, suck it up. And so, you know, I distracted myself with more work, thinking that everything would be fine. And if I worked more and more and more and pushed myself to my max limit, I would be rewarded, acknowledged, and recognized for my hard work. But something was still missing. When I opened my eyes and I looked around me, I noticed that it was not just me. So many other people, they were struggling too, from summer analysts to MD. And that's when I thought something's off here. After some time like that, I thought, listen, so I'm coming into the office, but I feel like a robot on autopilot. I'm numb. And so it's time for me to admit that I'm quite burnt out at this point, and it's time to quit. At that time, I didn't have an idea of what was next for me at all. All I knew was I needed time to take a breather, regroup, heal, and figure out how I could be able to get back to work, but having a healthier lifestyle.
Tell me about how you started into your coaching business.
You know, sometimes when we hear people switching industries or building businesses or accomplishing anything in life, we always get to the short story, and it makes it seem so easy. But I want to emphasize here is I didn't know that I wouldn't be in finance anymore. I was bred to be a finance person. I studied for it. And, once you're there, especially under 2 years, you're not thinking, yeah, I'm going to quit this and I'm going to start from zero. No. So, at first I applied for many positions in the field, internationally and nationally in France. And I still did coffee chats with professionals in the field. And at the same time, I registered into a coaching school. The way I felt when engaging with those professionals in finance and the way I felt when I was in the middle of coaching groups was completely different. And there's no better or worse. It's not about that. It's about how I personally felt. And that's when I did realize that all along since college, I did want to understand companies better from the inside. However, it was not from an analytic numbers perspective, as I thought, and as I shared with you at the beginning of this interview, but it was through people and the individuals. And so that's how I decided to start a coaching business and still work with financial professionals.
I really want to know some of the different tips or advice that you have for people that are going through burnout, or maybe they're confused in their career and things like that. So, what are some of the ways that you can recover from like a late night, or, working on weekends, and just have that energy to feel good when we're working?
The thing that I always like to start introducing, just for a bit of context, is our energy levels are four-part. There are 4 dimensions to it. We have the physical energy that involves, everything we know about, sleep and nutrition and hydration and movement. There is obviously mental health, which the way I personally like to sum it up is, if you have either a positive mindset or a negative mindset. Then there's emotional health, the way you know how to acknowledge your emotions and deal with them, understand the hidden message behind them, and move forward after experiencing them. And finally, there's spiritual energy, which is basically the connection with yourself as a person, who you are, what you like, your dislikes, your connection with other people, your loved ones, your colleagues, and the world around you. So it can be your home, your city, your community, your company, and the earth that we live in. Once you understand that these are the 4 components of energy, you understand that every time we talk about how do we optimize our energy levels, we cannot look at it for just one perspective. Now, in the context of an all-nighter, we need to optimize all 4 of these. If I start with the physical, which is the most straightforward, of course, I will start recommending this app that I'm obsessed with, which is called the Daily Dozen. It was developed by a certified doctor, Dr. Greger, and he is huge on holistic health. And he developed this free app that helps you basically check boxes to see if you're implementing enough of the top healthiest food that needed to be implemented in our daily diet for maximum health, and also to prevent chronic disease over the long term. And why do I mention this is because when you pull an all-nighter, when you wake up the next morning, our energy levels are pretty depleted. So if you imagine an iPhone battery or a phone battery, it's not on 100%. It's probably low, 45%, if not lower. What we need to do the next day is to focus on healing and recovery. And we need to maximize the energy that we have that day, instead of engaging in making choices that will further deplete what's left of that energy. Other tips you can implement as well is to declutter your mind and by monotasking. So the next day, I'm sure you're really busy at the office. Let's say it's the day after a live deal, you've submitted everything. I'm sure you have a lot of emails and maybe some stuff to organize at your desk and things like that, in a couple of meetings. I would say, if possible, batch. So regroup the activities that are the same. So let's say in the morning, you will do everything related to email and responding to people. And then in the afternoon, you do all the meetings. Why? Because when we multitask, switching from task A to task B requires an added effort from our brain, and research has shown that it takes approximately 20 minutes for our brain to refocus on a given task after switching. So that consumes energy, and we don't want that after an all-nighter.
Those are all really like straightforward and simple, but like effective tips. So I love that. I'm already thinking like I haven't pulled an all-nighter or anything, but I'm like, oh, I should do that, because like it makes sense. Like, why should I use more energy for things? I should do things that give me more energy. What about when it comes to like emotional stress and anxiety at work? Like, what are some tips you have for that, like dealing with difficult emotions or just having anxiety about a project or things like that.
Well, let me start by talking about how I dealt with my emotions back as when I was a banker. It was a mess. I think I took everything at face value. So everything that happened, like the little glitch and the process, a tiny typo, a mistake, anything, I would freak out. And I would think, oh my God, that's your fault. The reason why I'm sharing that, I mean, now I'm laughing about it, obviously. Back then I was not. The reason why I'm sharing that is because, I mean, a lot of professionals really feel lonely. In those moments, they feel lonely. They think that they're the problem. They are like the world is collapsing around them. You know, there's this concept of reality and truth. So what is real for you, Christina, is not real for me. In those moments when you make a typo on this super important presentation, which all the seniors get to see and everybody notices and laughs, for example, that conference room, your reality, the way you think about it, is not the truth. The truth may just be that, sure, it doesn't bode well that you made the typo, but I mean, you're human, and 1 week later, nobody will remember it. Your reality is real for you, but it's not the truth. And so in those moments, remind yourself that, to just allow yourself to take a step back and say, I wonder why I'm freaking out right now about this. I'm a loser or I'm a failure because I've made that typo. Wow, really? Asking yourself those questions will allow you to distance yourself from the moment. Just, leave a little bit of space in between what's happening. Now that we've said that, I have this 4-part method to handle emotions that I wish I knew back then. Number 1 is to embrace your emotion. So when you feel sadness at work, maybe because you feel lonely or because you're realizing that day that this is not what you want to do, embrace that emotion and don't try to suppress it. Your emotions are super important. They're a part of you. They're here to give you precious messages and precious data for all the tech people out there and for the actuary out there. That data is really important for you to analyze. And if you don't, then you're missing out on a lot of information, right? So embrace it. Number 2, let it flow through you. Decide for how long you are willing to feel that emotion. Is it 1 minute? Is it 15 minutes? Is it 1 week? It's up to you. But when that time is over, time's up and move on with life. Then the step number 3 is, now that you've let it flow through you, pay attention to the message. Why did you feel that emotion? Wonder why. Why was it such a big deal for you to have made a typo in that presentation? Why? Investigate the message. And finally, the last step is derive the lesson. That way you'll be able next time that you make a typo, for example, somewhere else, you'll think, wait a minute, this happened before. Last time I understood why I was freaking out, but now I won't be because, I know what's going on in there inside of me. So this is how you learn slowly to, work hand in hand with your emotions, get closer to them and make them a powerful asset that you can leverage to be more emotionally intelligent and master any situation.
What resonated with me a lot in those 4 steps was the letting it flow through you and giving yourself the time and maybe giving yourself a time limit before you then can start, working on it and move on. I'm trying to think of like what I do specifically, but I think as a whole, what I do is I really separate between like work and then my personal time. And so when I log off, I like really just try to log off. And so I think I just use that time I can reflect on the day and how my work day was. And if there was some sort of negative emotion or situation, then I can kind of address it and then come back a little bit better the next day. It helps so much just to have kind of clear steps laid out, even if maybe you're unconsciously doing parts of it, but just to know like that there are some clear steps that you can take is definitely going to be helpful for me.
I mean, when we are not aware of these steps, all the steps are just mashed up. And then in the heat of the moment, it's just a big mess. And then it blends up with everything else that's going on at the office, right? And it just becomes this huge thing that you carry with you back home. And then it becomes the center topic of your dinner date or your family dinner. What started as the emotional level, what we discussed before, what started as just the emotional level now is spreading to, you know, your physical, because then you have insomnia about this and you're freaking out, and then it spreads to the mental health because it gives you anxiety, and then maybe you isolate because after annoying everybody in your entourage, you know, around you, they're like, right, stop telling me about that, I got this. Either you quit, either you don't tell me about your experience. And so now you're isolated, and then boom, it spreads also to spiritual health.
I just feel like a lot of people are going to be nodding their heads as they listen to this and just relating to, because it's just what so many people go through in, you know, the like corporate workforce. What are some ways that we can protect ourselves from negative vibes at our work?
Okay, so let's take the example of, you know, you have a toxic boss, for example, or a manager around you, and they are constantly, you know, negatively affecting your energy and your vibes. And all you want to do is just come in and do your work and push through the day and be the amazing achiever that you are. If you have toxic energies around you, no matter if it's a boss, a manager, or just a coworker, bring it up with them can be a good strategy. So there is a framework that's called the DESC. The D stands for describe. So what was the problem? What was the issue there? So let's say that a coworker made an insensitive comment about you. Here you raise it up to them and say, hey, so the other day you kind of made this insensitive comment about me. I didn't really appreciate it. Then E stands for explaining the emotion. So here you explain what was the emotion. So when you made that insensitive comment, it made me feel unappreciated and unwanted or unworthy. What's really important to remember here is to stick to the facts and be objective. You do not want to linger into too much fluff and details and emotions. You want to keep it very straightforward, straight to the point, and professional. Once you've stated, so what was the issue and how you felt, S is the solution. So state the solution. And here, this is where you bring up a tangible, quick, easy to implement solution so that we can put this behind us once and for all. And it's good, especially when you talk to senior management and your boss, it shows that you have put the thought into how can we solve this, move past this, and that you're willing to move past this. You're not just like complaining. An example of a solution here would be, I'd appreciate if you don't make comments about my physique. I think, you know, our working relationship is great, and we both have a lot to add to this team, so we don't need to get into that. A C stands for consequence. And so here you just want to explain what's the consequence of not solving this issue. And here, this is why you implicitly explain, hey, so this is why you should hear me out here. And take action. Especially, again, if you're talking to senior management, you want to really reinforce the team effort and the goals that are shared with the whole team. So we have a great relationship in the team. I want us to reach our goals and target for the end of the quarter. And so I appreciate if we could keep our relation strong and you know, keep building trust as we go forward and work together so that we can keep achieving our goals and exceed them even.
You've shared so many like practical, very useful tips for how to manage your life at work, but what about that work-life balance? So, you know, what you're doing outside of work. Can you share some advice around achieving a good work-life balance?
Yeah, so great question. So the way I describe work-life balance is really how to make sure that you have a life after work when your work is already your life. It's all about what you do after work. And I love how you said, you know, when you turn off your computer and your work phone, you're fully at home. Some professionals don't have that luxury, unfortunately. And so the way we work around that is to really get back to what's important. We talked about the 4 pillars of energy before. Here, the key is no matter how much time you have, free time, whether you have your weekends free or your evenings free or not, there are some key things to focus on to make sure you still have this balance. And here I'm talking about mind, body, and spirit. And so body is obviously like movement, sleep, hydration, nutrition. We've talked about this. When we work long hours, we often brush them off. I love how in one of your videos, I think that's the video when you talk about how do you manage being a YouTuber and a consultant at the same time, you paused after writing emails and you did a quick stretch. I loved it. This is what it is about. A 5-minute stretch does the job. Now, of course, it won't get you ripped. Of course, you won't be competition ready, but it's it compounds just like interest rates in finance, right? If you've been stretching for the last 30 days, it will show. You'll feel more flexible, you'll have less back aches, and you'll feel even proud of yourself for having done it. So it does add up. The mind, it's really paying attention to your emotions, as I mentioned earlier, paying attention to your emotions, letting them flow, being really conscious about it and understanding the message behind them. And finally, spirit. We've done body, mind, and here spirit. So spirit is the spirituality component that I mentioned early in the video, your connection with yourself, others, and the environment around you. Do you feel lonely? Do you feel like you're surrounded by supportive friends and a tribe of people who are cheering for you? Do you feel like you're heard and that you're seen and that you matter? Do you feel like you have a good dynamic around you? And I think the last thing I wanted to add on this is this super common mistake that I see all busy professionals do when it comes to having a healthier work-life balance and having fulfilling careers in general. And that mistake is this go all in or be out mentality, right? Go hard or go home, or whatever you call it. This idea that you need to be 150% at all times, and everything is kind of this work project where you have to deliver and over deliver. And that's exhausting. That mindset is exhausting and drives so many people to hit their max limit and burn out. Every time I talk about work-life balance with my busy professional clients, it's about how can they start small and break things down so that it's reachable and achievable. When you think about it this way, it makes things less overwhelming. The common example I give, it's the one I applied to myself. In banking, I work long hours, and at first I was full on this all in or all out mentality. I wanted to have it all. And so I was working really late. At the same time, I wanted to be extremely fit. And so I worked out a lot. It made me feel super confident and super good at first. But then when busy season hit and we were leaving at 2, 3 a.m., I couldn't get to the gym anymore. And that got me so frustrated. And I went onto this roller coaster of emotions. What I learned afterwards is maybe during busy season, starting with having just a simple, healthy breakfast would be enough. And then ordering for lunch and dinner. It was okay. It didn't make me less ambitious or less committed to being healthy. It was just, a tiny step that was enough given the how full my plate was.
Obviously, you worked in banking, and then you said, you know what, this is not the right path for me. But everyone's of course different. So what would you say for other people that are kind of going through a similar struggle? Should they push through? Should they reassess and go a different direction? What's your advice there?
The first answer that comes to mind is do you. There is absolutely no cookie cutter, one size fits all answer to this. Some people, would be more comfortable with waiting and pushing hard until they get their next bonus because maybe they have college to pay for, they have a family to sustain, or they just like to support their lifestyle, or because they really care about the title and they've sacrificed a lot to get there. Some people just want to quit off the bat and take 1 year off, a sabbatical, to figure their stuff out. And some other people just stay there and work, but will not give their 100%. They just will do what's necessary so that they can, leave a bit earlier and figure their stuff out on their own, at their own pace. And whatever scenario you end up being in, it's okay. You're at the right place at the right time. And I know this sounds a little cliche, but it is really, really true. It is in the place you're in that you will find the answers that you're in. Again, if I share my personal experience, I had zero clue that I would end up working in coaching. Zero. Now, obviously, let's share tangible career tips here. I have created a career transition made simple guide. That's a fun guide, actually, that really helps you step by step figure out what your vision of career success looks like, what your needs are, what your goals are, and how can you make strategic and powerful moves to understand what are the next steps for you in your career.
I can't wait to share that career transition guide with everyone. And what about for people who want to get into finance to start? So any tips you have for young graduates that want to get into that field?
I'm always amazed. I mean, the younger generations are so quick to, get information, and they're so well informed. Obviously, they have access to all the social media, and they have access, to the trajectories now of ex-Goldman bankers or JP Morgan or Big Fours or BCG or whatever consultants. They have access to people, alumni that have done something and then pivoted and shifted. And, that's great. And when I was in college, most of the alumni that I had access to had just this kind of linear trajectory. I don't know if it's the same for you.
Yeah, I think the reason a lot of people like my channel is because I just try to show a little bit more of a like holistic view of different careers or just like real life stories versus what you just see like is traditionally on paper. So totally agree with you there.
I had this young graduate ask me the other day, I'm scared, I'm freaking out, I feel like I don't know anything, I feel like I need to know everything before I start applying and get into the job market. And I think one of the things that I brought up during our conversation was reflect on your past and the past challenges that you faced. What resources did you leverage to overcome those roadblocks? This can help you shift from, oh my God, I need to be perfect and know everything and study everything, to, wait a minute, I'm equipped here and I'm a learner, so I can learn every day. And I'm agile as well, so I can start here and then switch to there and then switch back there. I guess the bottom line here is really focus on your self-development and on reflecting on yourself, who you are, what you value, and your soft skills. And I think doing that will set you to have a successful career.
And so just to wrap, can you tell us, how does coaching really add to and like really bring a more fulfilling life for your clients and just in general?
Sure. I mean, of course, today we've shared a lot of tips that I hope will be really helpful to your audience. Coaching is really here to help you have a bigger impact in your life, like a long-lasting effect. So I noticed back in my banking days and also working with busy professionals that we tend to be very active and engaged at work. But then when we get back home and when it's time to focus on our own personal life and our personal goals, we are passive on these. And so coaching really helps you to reconnect with yourself and trust your inner judgment and really understand your needs, your wants, where you're at right now. It helps you kind of reframe this whole trajectory of yours and put it back into context, and it helps you really get out of your own way. So you may know, I struggle handling my emotions. I struggle figuring out and getting clear on the next steps of my career. I struggle implementing and infusing more balance into my work week. However, why are you struggling to implement it? What's been missing? What has been the stumbling block up until now that has you, run around in circles and feel stuck and frustrated, exhausted and overwhelmed? And so this is where with coaching, we get back to the root cause and we help you get rid of your limiting beliefs, your frustrations, your fears, your doubts, and we help you press pause, right? Reconnect with your inner genius because you're sharp, you're smart. There's no doubt about it. And once you reconnect with that, we help you take inspired action towards your goal. So this is, in a sense, how it differs with therapy, which is more, geared towards the past, to analyze the past and the patterns, which is extremely important as well and useful. And coaching is complementary to that, where we look at the past as well in a different manner, but then we focus on what's next and how we can take strategic action and inspired action so that to get you there in the timeline that works for you.
I feel like we need to do a part 2 just about like coaching as a career as well.
Go for it. Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's people out there who, are interested in that too, of doing what you do. So I'm just really grateful that you took the time to share so much of this amazing knowledge and your experiences with us. Can you just let the viewers of this video know where they can find you online?
I mean, first of all, thank you so much, Christina, for inviting me to have this chat with you on your channel. I think your content is absolutely amazing. I love your energy au naturel, how we say in French. It's super relatable and effortless and also packed with useful information. Again, earlier I was referring on, I loved that moment when you just showed how you were stretching casually between typing emails. We need to see other peers like in the industry to do that so that we think, wait a minute, like I can do it too. And yeah, where to find me. So you can visit my website, wafa.com. You can check me out on LinkedIn. I post every day. I have a newsletter, a bi-weekly newsletter where I share bite-sized coaching tips for you to be able to implement as a busy professional who has a crazy hectic schedule. And finally, I'm maybe thinking of going back to opening a YouTube channel. So, you know, Christina cheer up for me. And if you guys think it's a good idea, maybe I'll share the link and
like this video if you think Wafa should start her YouTube channel again. I would love for you to do that. I'm always telling all my friends or people I know to start YouTube channels and just share their perspectives. I think we need more of that.
Thank you so much for having me today. It was just a blast having this chat with you.
Yes, I loved it too. And I hope that we can connect again soon.
That's a wrap, Christina. Yes. Can you believe it?
Yay, we did it.
All right, let me stop recording.